Treacher Collins is a craniofacial syndrome that targets like 2 to 3 regions that can vary from person to person, but typically people with Treacher Collins lack cheekbones, which can create like the illusion that the eyes are kind of downward turned or drooping. The jaw is like recessed back so that the airway is kind of constricted, and then there's like the sloping effect. And then there's often like some sort of developmental problem towards the ears, whether it's just hearing impairment or having no ears at all. For me, I was born with a cleft palate, so that was one of the first things that I had to have corrected. A cleft palate is where you don't have a roof to your mouth. In the process of having a cleft palate, you have to be fed food through the stomach, so I've had to have, I don't know how you say this.
G-tube.
G-tube, but I don't know what the full word is. Gastro something.
Yeah.
And then, what else did I have? And then another thing is that because of the jaw and the airway, a lot of the teeth can be like overcrowded, and so I've had to have a lot of teeth removed and corrected and try to fit them all in. I've gone through very different forms of hearing aids throughout the years, but for the last like five or so years, I've had the bone anchored hearing aid, which is just like a screw that is embedded into the skull, and then the hearing aid like snaps on and off. So it looks like this on the side, and then the hearing aid.
And I know you've been able to describe this before, but compared to how we hear, how is it different for you?
The way that I kind of describe it is that it kind of feels like, on Sesame Street, how they have those like monsters that hang out in those like trash cans that they're like kind of like tin. Sometimes it can sound like you're inside like a tin can, and like it's like someone's like banging on the outside. It kind of has this like echoey feeling, and it comes back and out.
Anything else specifically about Treacher Collins or how it's affected you medically that you want to share?
Yeah, okay. I would say like growing up, people would often say like, oh, you're so brave, or like I couldn't do that the way, like, I don't know how I would live if I had that, or, you know, like, you're so beautiful and, like, gorgeous. And I think, like, you know, although the intent is to be, like, kind and to make someone feel good, the reality is, like, I know that you're kind of just fluffing me up, and that's not really true. But it has had, like, kind of an opposite effect on me. I think a lot of people felt that they had to, um, like, change their face to try to, like, work so hard to look normal, like everyone else, to fit in, because, you know, rude comments or people making them feel less than they are.
So other people with Treacher Collins,
Yeah.
you mean? Yep.
But with me, I felt kind of like the pressure to not change, because if I changed, then I was giving in to society telling me that I didn't look okay. But, you know, as I've gotten older, I think, like, I became more accepting that maybe I wasn't too happy with my appearance, but that I'm not changing for them, I'm changing for me. And a lot of times other people with Treacher Collins will try to change so much to fit in for others and not for themselves. Um, so yeah, definitely.
How about the movie?
Probably see the movie first.
Is it something that you're excited to see, or do you think that it's going to be hard to see?
No, I think, I mean, it'll be fun to see something that is, like, more something that I personally can relate to, that most people won't be able to relate to. But of course, like with most movies, I hope that they get it right, you know. I don't know why this is the first thing that came to my mind, but this is not a good thing. I don't know. I guess that, like, I'm just like everybody else, and I guess it's not really like a message, like, about me for others, but, like, for others to feel like, you know, I don't feel like a need to fit in with, like, the whole world, but as long as I fit in with my personal friends and family, like, that's all you really need. Like, the rest really doesn't matter. Well, like, my parents would always, like, try to reaffirm, like, consistently that, um, I'm Lauren Brothers before anything else. So I don't think, like, in my home life with my family and the people that I grew up with, there was never an emphasis on, like, why I was different. And I think that, I mean, I think for other people it's a little different, but for me personally, when others would stare or point, or maybe make questions or comments that maybe I wasn't supposed to hear, um, I think in a weird way I kind of reveled in this, like, oh, I'm different, like, in a positive way, like, you know, there's only one you. Even people who don't have Treacher Collins or any sort of facial difference, you know, no one can look like you. And who wants to be the same? So if you're gonna stare or point or make comments, like, at least I have your attention, you know. As I got older, more towards high school, I would say it got worse, because, I mean, my life is, like, comprised of so much more than just having a syndrome. So of course I have other struggles that I'm dealing with, like everyone else. But then on top of it, having Treacher Collins, I think, um, people didn't really bully me, but, like, the worst thing that I would say that people did was isolate me. And but I would say, on the flip side, going beyond high school, um, people are just so much more different when you're outside of your small community of the same people that you see day in, day out at school. They're the whole larger world, and you meet lots of people who are going through that world for the first time, just like you. And I have met more kind, compassionate people who see way past my syndrome very early on in our relationships and our friendships. So in that way, my life has been more positive once I've left, the school and became an adult. Yeah, so my life now is, like most people, I've gone off to college, I've gotten a degree, I've moved abroad, I've traveled abroad, I've, I probably have more friends now than I did before. I'm now married, I have a house, and living the dream. If you're shy, then be shy about it. You don't have to like fake it because like they're gonna know. Like they perceive things just the way you perceive others. So if you aren't being yourself and genuine, like how are they gonna be themselves and genuine with you? So even if you're shy and you want to approach them, there's a huge chance that that person will really, really appreciate you approaching them to begin with. No, I think it's like really actually cool. I know that a lot of parents like to read this book to their children who have not just Treacher Collins but other facial disfigurements or disformities. Um, and that it helps them to feel like they can relate to a character that is going through the same sort of life that they're about to walk through in school, just like Augie. And I think it's really cool that other kids and peers of that, of those students that. I think it's really cool that the students who are in the same space as another person who has a craniofacial difference can kind of understand what their life might be like from their position and maybe look past that and see that there's a person and a friend that they could find. Yeah. I think, like if I'm honest, in middle school and even elementary school, I don't think like I really had like the full awareness that it had anything to do with my syndrome, but maybe that I I was just like some of the other kids who were not as, more of an outcast, and for whatever reason, I wasn't worthy of certain friendships or certain social groups. But I did have friendships with people, but not consistently. So I wouldn't say that there were people who picked on me per se just for having my difference, but it was there was some separation between me and them, and I wasn't quite aware of why there was that separation. At first, I think that it can be difficult to see that person for who they are because you're looking at the superficial level and it's hard to see past their face. But, underneath that person could be, someone who is really great at making jokes or someone who's quite athletic and likes to play sports, shares things that you like to do in your personal life, and there's a person there who could be a wonderful friend and maybe even the best friend you've ever had.